onto the pick phase itself, and we were expecting to see that AG Global picking Greece, and this one is going to be still staying true.
Yeah, Greece on the board. I think in general, Greece, especially with its identity, one that if you can nail down second half, you can get so much speed for your efforts, which I'd say is the complete opposite of like USA being more of a across the board with China as well. Very curious to see if how those slingshots are. It's been very interesting to see the way top players have been approaching the end of China, but Gen.GxWeibo picking that as second. And then finally France, the classic quarter pipe or half pipe jumps. I really enjoy seeing those back again, honestly. And then closing things off with Brazil, nobody wanting to tackle the plastic water action.
Yeah, and it's actually a bit of a change of pace compared to what we seen yesterday, where yesterday it was France which was left at the decider map and people not really wanting to tackle this map in particular, but Brazil seems to have been revealing some, maybe some indecisiveness, not quite indecisive, maybe some doubts for some players, depending on how comfortable they feel on certain maps. But yeah, it will be very interesting to see how that goes. So Greece, USA, China, France, Brazil. If I saw the map order correctly, I was busy chatting with some of our production crew about some of the things that are going to be happening. But yeah, we have our map order settled, and it looks as though the server is restarted. So we are about to get stuck into the game very shortly here between AG Global on the blue side and Gen.GxWeibo on the red side. Of course, AG Global having had the luxury of picking first because they have the higher seed going into their match. The next match, it will be Gen.GxWeibo, who will likely have the higher seed going into this match, going by the seeding of the Division 1 team. So it will be interesting to see how they will handle the first and last map picks whenever we get to that. But I think it's close to race time, Boney, and yeah, starting off on a very old-school feeling track, even though it is a brand new track for this season in terms of Greece 2026, but a very old-school feel in the sense, as we said last time out yesterday, that it has two sections that are very much looking very dialed in and that you can be very precise and down to a T, but then you've got the third and final sector, especially the final staircase of the identity, where if you mess up one alignment, everything, all the hard work from the previous sectors can all come undone very quickly.
Yeah, I feel in certain ways, while, this is a mixed track, it very much favors those with a bit more of that technical background and of that old school background, while at the same time rewarding car control for those final sectors. It one of those plays where it feels very deceptive. Players make it look ridiculously easy at times, but it is oh so hard to keep the car under control, keep it level as you go through each one of these, and make sure that you make your way through the finish. But we are off AG Global versus Gen.GxWeibo at 4 now. All AG1 a little bit in the lead, but honestly, everything's still to play for as Wosal takes the inside off the grass and picks up a little bit of pace to make sure him and Heave stay ahead of AG Global.
Currently, so far, I mean, there's not been any big mistakes that we've been noting. It's been happening yesterday, though, to see some people like briefly brush the wall at the chicane or at the bubble right-hander before the checkpoint 4, which is the turn before the ice slide. Checkpoint 5 is done, and a huge clip on the first drop-down staircase sector from Biggs, the very best performer on this map, has completely fumbled it really bad, forced to triple respawn even, leaving his teammate to pick up the slack and actually salvage a point from the situation. It will be Wosal leading by a tenth of a second from the battle for second between Eve, his teammate, and Gwen from AG Global. Right now, Gwen managing to sneak in between the two Gen.GxWeibo players, and now going side by side, piling the pressure on Wosal for the lead. Going towards the final sector with that final jump before the identity. Who gets the best nosedive? It will be Gwen entering in the lead. Gets a bit of a shaky landing into the first couple of platforms, manages to sail it down nicely. And back-to-back clips for Wosal and Gwen, and Heave will be able to get the round win. What on earth is happening? We've seen a lot of damage already. Gwen and Wosal still going at it side by side for second place, and it will be Wosal guaranteeing the ace 7 seconds down. Binks reaches the finish line, but a lot of attrition already in this first round.
Yeah, already heavy punches being dealt right there. Gwen looking like he would be able to recover, make sure that the damage was mitigated, bring it to a draw, but the identity showing us how important it is to be accurate, and to be accurate while being under pressure, while knowing that you are pushing to recover from your teammates' error. It's very hard to keep the composure, to have double crashes happen at around the same time. We'll admit, that block in particular where those crashes happen is probably the most pivotal sector of the identity. But, you got to dust yourself off, keep things moving, keep things going, and go for another round. Wosal does have the lead, but missing the connection with Heave at the moment, lagging behind by about 3/10 of a second. I mean, that may as well be an eternity when faced off against Vince and Gwen as we make our way through this long left-hand turn, full speeding our way through, and making our way for that final sector. Binks looking to bring the fight to Wosal. It's outside line from the two, really pushing each other through the line, but Wosal really needs to get ahead, make sure that the gap of 3 points stays in their favor. Identity time once more this time. All is to be done to make sure not to crash. Gwen takes the inside line to try and overtake. Wosal will be enough. No, Wosal with the speed. A little bit of a crash from Binks, and Wosal sets up the defense. Not just that, Heave is there. Heave overtakes as Binks has issues making his way to the finish due to that landing. Oh, what a devastating one there for AG Global, honestly.
Yeah,
it felt like there was a lot more to be gained.
That was a huge blow to All Gamers' chance to actually deal the counter ace with that huge slowdown from Banks just on the penultimate platform, and then that turtle which actually followed into a roll on the way into the finish line, dropping him down to 4th, promoting Wosal into the lead and Heave up to 3rd, allowing Gen.GxWeibo to score a victory and extend their gap to 4 points. As we go into round number 3, we tend to go a little bit high on the side of Gwen for the ice slide. He's able to recover, not quite. He has a 2/10 deficit to compensate for in sector number 1. Heave going a bit aggressive on this drop-down staircase. Gwen almost clipping on the exit of the drop-down staircase on checkpoint number 7 at the end of sector number 2. Sector 3 started now. It is Binks, Wosal, and Heave regroup within each other's ghost. 11 milliseconds between 1st and 3rd as we go a bit more inside on the part of Binks through that double left-hander NASCAR turn, but we are still very much in the hunt. 43 milliseconds. It's still all to play for until we briefly brush the wall with the right side of the car on the part of Binks through that outside dirt turn towards checkpoint 13. Gwen having to try and salvage the situation here somehow. Wosal leading, and a huge heavy landing for Heave, clipping with the rear of his car. He's out of it. And a huge clip from Wosal, almost at the same platform that Binks fell foul of in the previous round. And there's the first counter ace for AG Global, who are now back to within a single point of Gen.GxWeibo.
Well, I can imagine, you know, if you're an All Gamers fan, your heart must be pounding, feeling like, what is happening? This is their map pick. How is this slipping away from them? But Wosal and Heave, so far, it's been very precarious for them around the identity in particular. You do notice that there are some, you know, the approach to the first jump not really going too well. The right-hand turn, to call it that, between those jumps also not really paying them any favors, and it really does feel like that is not really what Gen.GxWeibo is looking for right now, knowing that this is what is up for Greece. I mean, this is not their pick, but taking away those 3 points just like that feels like, you know, just, you know, not be able to catch lightning in a bottle just yet. But for now, Binks is pushing Wosal to each and every one of these turns. Heave wants to catch up, but again, Gwen keeping the line, making sure that there is no entry allowed. And Wosal, being surrounded by AG Global, has to make sure to keep his composure through the identity, once again setting up for that jump. We've seen Gwen take the inside line through these, and he is being rewarded in spades. Wosal with the clip. Gwen going down, followed along by Binks. That is going to be another ace for AG Global. Back to back from a 3-point deficit to a 2-point lead. And not just that, they're on track point.
They're on track point, and it looks as though those first 2 rounds troubles have been put way back in the rearview mirror. It feels like a long time ago now that All Gamers were struggling on rounds 1 and 2, as we now go on to the first map point attempt here for AG Global. Going through the double right-hander towards checkpoint 4, we go a bit high on the part of Heave, and we try to compensate to avoid hitting the apex on the side of Binks, and we're going to be falling back down in last place, make that 3rd as we see Heave also having troubles on the ice line towards checkpoint 5. Wosal and Gwen, and actually Wosal losing a lot of speed on one of those drop downs in the middle sector, allowing Gwen to sprint through into the lead of the race by a 10.5. Binks quite far removed from that battle. It looks as though that ace situation will not be happening unless there is a huge blunder at the identity from the part of Wosal, like we've seen in the previous few rounds. So far, Gwen firmly in command, having a 2/10 lead over Wosal, going for a beautiful outside line on the dirt towards checkpoint 13, continuing to widen the gap to around 1/4 of a second, 3/10 now, going towards the identity. Gwen very much in firm control, and once again Wosal with that inside attack with a hefty clip. Binks too far away to take advantage of it, however, and so it will be a simple victory for all gamers, and Gwen looking to lock in a new personal best online, a .129, much in the way of the world record from Epos. Not much in the way of Epos' world record, less than a tenth away is the word that I was trying to look for, but it's just an incredible performance from Gwen that allows him to be very much the top dog here in this particular map.
Yeah, I mean, All Gamers not necessarily taking the win with that performance, but obviously great to drive a PB towards the latter half of the track to ensure that, you know, motivation, the morale is nice and high. Heavy crash coming out there from Heave as well. Maybe enough for All Gamers to get the win, and they just need the singular point, being able to recover from that 3-point deficit. Rough first two rounds, but the attack from Wolfsaw on the identity hasn't really been paying off. He's really taken a risk in doing that and trying to recover, trying to make sure that the errors that have been happening on the side of Heave through the first half of the track to mitigate that, but it hasn't paid off. Right now is in third place. Even if he were to overtake, it wouldn't be enough, but that touch is pretty much going to guarantee a 1-0 lead to AG Global. Gwen and Binks, all they have to do is tap it in. Really nothing to worry about, but that doesn't mean it's over just yet. Calm down, Gwen. No need to touch the walls just like that. Binks, though, is still ahead. Makes his way through. Heave with the respawn. It's going to be another ace to close things out. It was looking a little bit dangerous, but with that ace, AG Global picks up Greece 1-0.
And thus very much making the full potential of that map realized, despite a bit of a fit start in the first two rounds, and a bit of a hard flutter I'm wagering for the team overall, as we saw Gwen go a little bit over to the left-hand side on the way towards checkpoint number 14 and hit the wall on the left-hand side of his car, as we now go to the first pick from Gen.GxWeibo, that being USA, the map where Wostyle won his Elite Cup round a couple of weeks ago on the Elite Cup winter season, back on February the 28th. And also, again, world record still courtesy of Gwen, if everything's still all fine and dandy. Yep, a .413. So this is going to be looking to be pretty interesting in one map where Gen.GxWeibo do need to actually get their act together.
Yeah, a 1-0 deficit, not something you necessarily want to be happy about, but there is still room. This is a best of 5 after all. You gotta, you're gonna have some loss along the way, especially when it is on the track pick of your opponent. Still, though, I can't imagine that it's easy to just, be okay with having built up that lead, having seen that there is some impact to be made on your opponents, and then having round after round after round just not go your way. It is as much of a mental game as it is simply what we see on the track. This identity, while we have seen errors throughout the past, I think it's less punishing than Greece can be. Still, though, there's always that risk for any type of drift going wrong, entering a little bit too early, as we see Wolfsaw do a little bit of a stunt along the way, making sure that we are ready for the race.
A little bit of a clip on the inside of the helper, which is apparently looks to be made of plastic to have that bounce like that on the and have the car stand on the rear bumper like this. But we've seen those helpers and those very inside attacks being enabled by those helpers be a little bit of a double-edged sword over the course of the lifetime of this map here on the competitive circuit in 2026, as we are now underway with round number 1. Beautiful quarter pipe on the side of Gwen, which will exit Sector 1 into the lead until he barely brushes the wall on the inside before checkpoint 4 even rings the bell. And so it will be down to Bink to try and anchor the fort for all gamers as we go for a bit of a middle-of-the-road approach for the jump, along with Heave, and Wosal went for the full inside line, goes a bit too wide, though, on the center towards the ice patch before the dirt flick, and will be dropping down to third, and that gets compounded with a huge clip at the apex of the dirt flick, and the misery continues for Gen.GxWeibo as Gwen moves up to third, putting all gamers into a potential victory scenario. Going on to the identity, it will be Binks with a healthy lead of 0.2 of a second as we go towards the final corner. Baby Heave with a daredevil attack in the final part. We almost threw the round win away on the part of Binks by going a bit sideways and a bit wide on the plastic. It has happened so many times, but this time he was able to guarantee the first place by 36 milliseconds, allowing all gamers to take the lead.
Yeah, it was looking dangerous there due to that small touch after the quarter pipe. There's so much speed to be gained throughout those next sectors, all the way up to the ice slide into the dirt. It's just devastating to have that happen. I mean, that 2-second deficit is very clear to what was happening there, but just there at the end, Eve so close, touching that first place. Hopefully that'll just motivate, reinvigorate him as we move through round number 2. But this time around, Gwen, once again, just having some issues. Binks being the anchor to keep the lead, stay in first place, and having to deal with some onslaught attacks from Heave, showing up left, right, and center. But Binks hitting one of the cinder blocks along the way, slows down, joined up by his teammate Gwen, but the gap is 0.8 of a second. This is a potential ace. It's up to Wosal and Heave here to make sure that each and every one of these drifts is not as clean as they need to be. The gap is there. Realize the situation, adapt to it, and simply tap it in is what they need to do. That's what they are going to do across the line with the ace. 3 points, take back the lead there, 2-4. Make sure that their map stays in their favor.
Yeah, and they take full advantage of the mistake from Binks, who went a bit wide at the exit of the dirt flick and thus took the breeze block on the right-hand side part of his car, I guess we can call it that, thus allowing the two Gen.GxWeibo players to sprint into first and second. Now moving on to round number 3, Gen.GxWeibo now leading by 2 points as we go through the quarter pipe. A bit of a clip on the entry into the high part of the quarter pipe from Heave, which will slow him down a little bit, but he still maintains good visual contact with the group up ahead by about 0.2 of a second. It's going to be Gwen, Binks, Wosal, 1, 2, 3. We're almost hitting the wall on the exit of the dirt part on the side of Binks. We go for the full inside line for Gwen, almost hitting the wall towards the exit there, goes way wide on the setup for the ice of the dirt flick. Wosal a bit slow compared to the rest of the AG Global guys. Who gets the best dirt flick exit? It looks to be Gwen, who will be exiting in the lead, leading his teammate by 1/10.5. Going to the identity right now, it will be Wosal and Heave, almost powerless to do anything at this point until the very final corner, which is where we've seen a lot of the snipes and a lot of heartbreak happen. Let's see if that happens here. Won this round. The answer is a no for AG, and yes for Team Gen.GxWeibo, with Heave clobbering the side of the plastic with the right-hand side of his wheels, and Gwen winning with a 0.644. This is a great time to do it, and a great counter ace to deal right back to Gen.GxWeibo and retake the lead by a single point.
Yeah, I mean, Gwen and Binks there, they looked in sync. The moment that they exited out of the ice, off of the dirt, is every single line was just reversed to a T. If I were to give a gold medal, like if this was the synchronized Trackmania games, they'd get the gold for sure. It just goes to show how well practiced they are and how well they know these lines together, as once again we do see Binks in the lead. He's been taking the lead for pretty much each and every one of these rounds, but now it is Eve in a little bit of trouble, and Gwen here once again to reinforce his teammates. Bad entry into the ice though, with a bit of a touch does mean that he will fall back a little bit, having Heave on his tail. Still, Wosal needs first place, needs to make sure that this gap doesn't grow by another point, put AG Global on track point. With current positions, Binks though, he is as cool as a cucumber. Wosal, I don't think you can hope for is Binks making an error. No such thing. In fact, it's going to be a PB by 1/10 of a second. An easy victory, it seems, for AG Global. I mean, Binks is doing phenomenal work here.
And Binks moving almost on par with Gwen's personal best and world record, a 0.497. Binks dipping into the 0.4s. And to give back to the tangent about synchronicity in a couple of rounds ago, I think we should introduce some I think there has to be some double driver events in the next Olympic Games if we want to talk about synchronicity. This is probably the best test of how in sync and in tune you are with your teammate. But that's another debate for another time altogether. In the meantime, on the present round, the first map point attempt here on USA for AG Global, it will be Wosal leading Gwen by 68 milliseconds at the end of Sector 1. Binks a little bit far behind after the start, having to do a lot of catch-up work in order to put a little bit of a dent on Gen.GxWeibo's stranglehold on this round so far. Gwen hitting the breeze block this time with the right rear wheel at the exit of the dirt flick, leaving Binks all on his own to deal with the two Gen.GxWeibo players. Wosal leading by 0.2 of a second as we now go to the identity. Who gets the best entry? Binks manages to get back within the back bumper of Wosal, who still holds on to the lead by the skin of his teeth. Going to the final corner, the final full set. Wosal will still win, but Binks will slot himself in between the two Gen.GxWeibo players and thus deny the ace to the red side. Beautiful race between these three.
Yeah, amazing snipe there from Binks. Essential, as well as this does keep Gen.GxWeibo from getting into the lead and ensuring that track point in their favor. They need to get an ace if they want to take it all at once, giving AG Global just a bit more time to breathe, and Binks just showing off how how much of an anchor, how much of a team player and a star player, honestly, on this track he is at the moment. For now, though, they are being sandwiched in between Wosal and Heave. Still, though, the gap between the 4 players is minimal at best. Wouldn't be surprised if once we hit the ice is when we'll see these gaps occur. Been interesting to see Wosal taking a bit more of an inside line throughout some of these turns. This time around, though, finds himself far on the outside, allows Gwen to get just a little bit past. But for everyone there, it's making their way, snap around, get back into this long downhill turn. That touch may be enough for Gen.GxWeibo to get a little bit of a foot in the door. Wosal in first, Gwen on second, Heave on third. That would mean 9-9. Could go into overtime, depending on how things go. Get into the finish line, no changes in positions. That is going to be 9-9. Both teams needing that singular point, but make sure that that is not accompanied by the other opponents getting that one as well.
Yeah, and it was all kicked off with that little too much aggressiveness on the double right-hander before the identity from Binks, hitting the apex with the right front and then being sent to the outside wall in a bit of a pinball effect, as I like to call it. And that is what really enabled Gen.GxWeibo to secure the 9-9 scoreline. And the very real possibility of going into overtime is indeed on the table, Bonnie. You actually make sure to point that out beautifully as we go into sector number 2. After checkpoint 4, it will be Binks and Gwen side by side of the splits, and Heave looking to try and get a bit of a word in, but he doesn't get a word for too long. Gets his mouth shut almost immediately at the exit of the dirt by just going a bit too wide and clubbering the right-hand side wall with the right side of this car. Through the dirt flick we go for the leaders. It will be Wosal sneaking in between the 2 players and trying to enforce a draw. He's trying to make the pressure on Gwen, trying to pile on the pressure on Binks as well, trying to force him into making a mistake. In the identity we go. Wosal within striking distance of Binks, could potentially try to make something happen in the final corner like we've seen before. They are nearly neck and neck. Wosal goes for the throw, makes it stick for 6 milliseconds, and ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in overtime and for the first time in 2026, it's overtime on Overdrive.
It's that was glorious to watch. Another beautiful snipe this time around from Wosal, and both snipes have been pivotal. If not for Binks' snipe earlier on to make sure that it was only a victory and not an ace, it already could have been over with the previous round. And now once again, you know, it's on the other side that we see the exchanging of points be a pivotal point as well. But this is brutal. Both Heave and Wosal making errors very early on into the track. We're halfway through and the gap is about a second. It would take an absolute miracle right now for AG Global to somehow fall by the wayside and allow Gen.GxWeibo to get in, especially there with a slide out from Wosal, not getting the snap around correctly. It would have, Heave needs to overtake somehow, some way. I think it would be, yeah, I think we just need to look at this, watch it play out. Heave right there also not getting the drift down. That is going to be it from some close snipes. Unfortunately, a bit of a, well, a quick finish, honestly, to this potential overtime action. It's going to be 13-10. That's going to be 2-0 for all gamers.
I mean, kudos to Wosal, who put it all on the line in order to get that scenario on the horn. And we see one of the mistakes that happened a bit further behind with that slide out from Wosal midway through the dirt flick, which compounded the misery and sealed the deal for Gen.GxWeibo on their first map pick. And they have one more shot to redeem themselves on their second map pick here, which is going to be China, a reinterpretation of Bicycle, which we mentioned yesterday during the broadcast. And this one is very much Gen.G with their backs against the wall in order to avoid the same fate that Na'Vi met in the opening game day weekend, as we are going to be focusing to see if they're all going to go for the bug slide. It looks as though it won't be the case. We're not going to be seeing a separation of philosophies with a couple people going for the safe way, the other for the bug slide. It will be very interesting to see each and everyone's success rates at going for the first 2 corners there. Yeah.
And that definitely, in terms of China, most of the track is relatively, straightforward. Really, the bug slide is one of those pivotal points. The ice slide that we're watching at right now as well, heading into this uphill, it's so important to conserve and maintain that speed, making your way all the way through to the ice slingshots, as to call them that. And it's very interesting the way everybody is taking those ice slingshots. I've been seeing people taking them left side, taking them right side. But it's all about making sure that, you take as much speed as possible, make sure to go as far away as possible. Heave deciding to go from the right into the left. and just snap you away as far away as possible. For those maybe used to the black tracks, the second part, the beams are a bit further away, so no silly bouncing happening here.
Here we go then for the first round, and already we're seeing someone fail at the setup, just briefly brushing the wall goes Gwen with the right rear or left rear of his car, and that is going to be putting all gamers one player down. It will be Binks, who is going to be in the midst of the battle for the lead with Wosal, and has Heave snapping at his heels virtually, going into checkpoint number 4, sector number 2. The ice slide, roughly equivalent and rather homogeneous trajectory for all three. A bit more exiting for Wosal on the spot, and a huge clip at the base of that platform section at checkpoint 6 for Binks, which is going to be giving the definite upper hand to Gen.GxWeibo, who just has to validate that ace. They don't need to overpush, they don't need to try and put in a 0.1 low or even a 0.0 like the world record that you see at the top of the screen, a 0.033 from Granadi during practice before Birmingham. As we now go into the ice turnarounds, the first one is done nice and clean. Make sure to exit straight and not exit too sideways, otherwise you risk basically drifting wide and hitting the wall. Especially true on that second part, and also make sure to not go too deep on the booster to avoid hitting the snow patch, just like Wosal did. We almost completely went all the way into the snow patch, which would have put it virtually to a stop and thus allowed AG Global to get 1 point back, but that is not the case. Gen.GxWeibo 3-0 for the first round of their second map pick.
Yeah, a little bit of a reset, I think, on Darren as well. It's one thing to lose the map that your opponents picked. It's another to lose the map you picked, especially when it was as close as it was. So it's nice to just get 3 points on the board, make sure that that is in there. But awkward bug slide from both Heave and Wosal, having issues recovering out of their turn, and Gwen and Binks taking advantage of the situation. A role reversal what we saw with the previous round. Well, this time around the gap isn't as large as we saw. Heave is still in hot pursuit, trying to get close. Wosal a bit too far back, I think, to really make an impact without any error happening on the slingshots. Gwen and Binks setting up nice and wide on the dirt. It's just, it's a bit of the calm before the storm, heading their way into the slingshots. See some players go for left side setups, Heave going for the right side setup, and straighten out the car beautifully there as well. I have to see if either Gwen or Binks overshoots it here. No, quite conservatively, honestly, and they are right for doing that as well. They had the lead, quite the gap. Make sure that 3-point lead, eliminate it. Take an ace, take it back, make sure we just even things out. Sure, we'll play up to 7 points is what they say.
Wipe the slate clean, essentially, is what is the word that we are looking for here for AG Global, and they were able to wipe that slate completely clean, and this time it will be Wosal, the same kind of mistake that Gwen had in the first round, actually, this time pinballing his way through the wall, so he had it a little bit worse than Gwen did in round number 1, although Gwen did not get the best of exits in the bug slide, and compared to what happened in the last round, Wosal did get a good bug slide, but exited a bit too close to the wall on the right-hand side and briefly brushed the wall, triggering the dreaded acceleration penalty, thus leaving a teammate Heave to try and pick up the slack, which he was not able to do in that round, but he might be able to pull it off here in this round because he is currently leading after the middle sector. Checkpoint 7, a huge, long right-hander trying to go full inside for Binks and Heave. Currently, it is still advantage to the man from Weibo Gaming, who's now going side-by-side with Binks, who's putting it all on the line, and then some, trying to catch up to the leader of the round, and it's going to be Heave cracking under pressure, crashing into the wall with the right-hand side of his car, that little chicane, that little S-curve before the first ice turnaround, and this gives AG Global that round on his silver plate, and that second consecutive ace on a single plate with a .338. Heave having to somewhat match the pace, overdrove a little bit, if you pardon the pun, but that overdriving resulted in that very heavy wall contact. It's very easy to try and give 101, 103, 105% of yourself battling against the likes of Gwen and Binks, but in that case, it's going to be biting hard if you make any single mistake.
Yeah, and it to me feels like a lot of pressure is what is causing Heave to have these issues. I mean, it's I think for a player like Wosal, who's been around for so long, versus Heave, while Heave has been around, it's it's still new, it's still different, and to then have that all riding on you, make sure to stop this ace from happening. It's so much different from just driving around as you do during practice. And again, Gwen and Binks find themselves ahead. Again, the bug slice just not really paying off for Gen.GxWeibo, which is so costly. You can just see how much that snowballs into the favor of Gwen and Binks as they once again set themselves up for the slingshots. And again, how much risk do you really need to take? You just need to make sure, straighten out the car. We don't have to go too deep. Maybe brake a little bit early to ensure that this second slingshot goes well and just tap it in. And that's exactly what they're doing. And I feel like throughout most of the race is what we have been seeing from Gwen and Binks. We have seen them in trouble, but right now it feels and seems very easy for them.
It feels very easy, but you also have to keep in mind, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the times, but we're driving in the 0.3s, and here we drove a low 0.2. This is very, very strong pace that Keith and Warsaw are going to have to contend with, and it's very hard to contend with that kind of pace, and having to put it all on the line, especially on the bug slide, when it is so key to get it right. And unfortunately for Warsaw, doesn't get the best of exits, will thus be half a second down compared to the leader, that is Gwen at the moment. Heave in second place and Binks in third. We are on match point attempt number 1. It looks as though they are going to be able to seal the deal in the first time of asking here on China, as he went a bit slow on that convex platform before checkpoint number 7. Warsaw going full inside, actually, catching up with his teammate and trying to get more of a visual contact with Binks than ever before. But you can see the gaps, it's still 3/10 between second and third. Now the gap visually coming back down. Warsaw trying to actually prey on a mistake from Gwen and Binks, but these guys have been dialed in just like Swiss watches, just like metronomes. They never skip the beat at all. Be it yesterday versus Navi or today versus Gen.GxWeibo. We finish on a 12-3 score on China, and another clean sweep 3-0 match. Gwen and Binks, if you didn't hear their message yesterday with that victory from Navi, now I'm sure you've heard it loud and clear.
Yeah, they are not some team to just be trifled with. They are ready. They are prepared. I mean, we just saw China nothing but aces. There was not a single victory or draw or anything in between. It was all or nothing. Only one time was Gen.GxWeibo able to really get their foot in, but from that point on, it was pedal to the metal. Gwen and Binks just go, back to back. Absolutely brilliant to see. And just to know that their performance is at high. At the same time, Gen.GxWeibo, we'll be seeing that in a little bit as well. But one thing that really stuck out to me is their consistency not really being where it needs to be. More often than not, the error was on their side than it was on AG Global. And it really took it out on them, I feel. Because at the same time, pace-wise, I feel like they could have.
Yeah, they definitely could have tried to do something, but yeah, just AG Global, just that much more dialed in going into this opening weekend compared to the likes of Weibo and Gen.G or Navi in that sense. And these are going to be kinks that are going to be working out over the course of the next few weeks for play days in Division 1, of course. But I feel like they might be happy that the game versus AG Global happened then and there, in that particular day and time, because they're like, okay, we got the scarecrows, we got the big monsters out of the way for league play. We can focus on actually trying to tackle other opponents that might be a bit more manageable, including Team USAC, which is going to be playing in less than half an hour.
Yeah, just maybe work out the kinks, get the nerves out. I mean, it's the first day, first match for them as well. It's not easy to then be put up.
It's a rough one to start. To start a season, and even to start a day. Like, to be fair,
it can really. I mean, hopefully it won't bring them down too much. They'll be able to rally in. It's as much a mental game as it is a practical one. I'm sure that they know what they did. They know what they need to work on. It doesn't feel like it's some impossible equation for them to solve, and it's a simple matter of, all right, we can identify the mistakes. We have a bit of time to get ready. Let's make sure we can do that and prepare for our next match in that manner. At least, they're warm. They look warm. They look, in that sense, good, but work out a little bit of those kinks. They ironed out, like you got your shirt on and you just, it's a wrinkle again.
Yeah,
it's a wrinkle again. It's not like that.
Still a few wrinkles to iron out, I guess is what you're trying to say.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, I'm not a native English speaker, but I can find the proper words sometimes. Yay, if it can only happen 99.99% of the time, that'd be great. But that's a personal problem that I'm still trying to tackle, and I know it takes a bit of time. Some people, I might stumble my words. I tried to translate an expression in French that we use to say fumble at the last minute, which is basically eat the match plan. Just to use the French expression, it's called manger la feuille de match. And I tried to translate that live yesterday. Completely failed. It was like basically me falling down the stairs and banging my head against the wall side to side. And yeah, it was just. But yeah. I hope you guys understand the intent behind that, and I'm still continuing to try and find some of these things out, but I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at it, and I feel like we're all trying to get to grips with that particular native language thing, non-native language thing. But we've been going at it for a long time, so I feel like we find our way pretty easily through there.
Nah, exactly. As we Dutch like to say, unfortunately, peanut butter, which is what it is. For those who know, they'll know. I guess first in some ways you can feel they played with how do you? Yeah, bacon and beans. Yeah, they played for bacon and beans. It felt like at times. Again, for those who know, somehow idioms from different languages simply don't translate as well.
Yeah, they don't translate all that well. Yeah, that's true. But that's going to be a bit of learning maybe for some of us who are looking to be a bit more educated and a bit more culturally inclined. But what I'm more inclined to do is take a bit of a break, take a bit of a sip of water, and so that we can actually regroup for our next match of the day, which is going to be Gen.GxWeibo, so Wasal and he versus Team Usac, Neil and Wizzy, who are making their entrance into Overdrive Div 1. Stay with us, we'll be right back.